Hey, I thought of something I've been meaning to do with this thing. I got something heavy I want to move. So, drive on over there and that'll warm it up some, and then we'll move it and that'll warm it up a lot. Alright, be it ever so horrid, this is the future project. I'll give you a second to look at it. See if you can guess what this is. I mean, it's obviously a tractor. Any ideas yet? Alright. Spoiler alert. This is a 1952 Earthmaster. If you've never seen one of these before, I'm not surprised. This is a rare tractor. This tractor was originally made by a company in Burbank, California, believe it or not. And eventually operations were moved to North Carolina. And in North Carolina they kind of finished up the production and shut the plant down. It was only operating for like 2 to 3 years. Real low production numbers. That doesn't necessarily mean it's super valuable. It's one of those situations where because nobody's ever heard of it, it's just not that valuable. You know? Real tractor aficionados that are looking for the missing holy grail in their collection might be looking for one of these, but the everyday tractor enthusiast might, you know, he'd be more interested in maybe collecting that particular rare model 435 John Deere. I think that was a 435. It was a 435. It had the GM diesel in it. It's a rare one. That's just an example. But anyways, point is, it's valuable to me because it has sentimental value. This was my father's tractor. It was the original tractor that worked here on this small farm. So, it's a real small sucker. Those of you who have seen my Yelm Earthmaster project, that Yelm Earthmaster that was bought from way out on the west coast and shipped back here, that's a parts tractor for me to get parts to put this one back together. The story there is that I had started disassembly on this and I was storing the stuff in the barn, and then we had scrap metal thieves break in, stole a bunch of stuff, and they stole the brass radiator and they stole some other parts. And I ended up buying that tractor out in Washington just as a parts tractor. I got the tractor dirt cheap, but it cost me about 8 times as much to ship it back here as it did for me to buy the machine. And that one's real rough, but I digress. So anyways, today's project to warm up the backhoe is going to be to hook this up somehow and get it closer to home, because it's one of the few heavy metal items left here in the yard that I kind of worry about somebody spotting and thinking, hey, that'd be a good thing to haul off to the scrapyard for a few bucks. The only reason they haven't done it yet is because all the easy to unbolt stuff has been removed for the most part, and the rest of it's just too heavy for them to just pick up and throw in the back of a pickup truck. But I am going to take this sucker and closer to home. So, see if we can't hook it up and lift it. Alright, I got the lumber and tarp and junk off of here. I picked up all of my nuts and bolts that were on the floorboards and put them in a container. Now, I don't really have good rigging straps and equipment, so I'm going to use the chain I've been using for logging and then for skidding those trees. And I got this big web strap here, which the weak point on this is this metal. So what I'm going to do is I got it slung around the rear of the thing here, and then I'm going to put the chain probably around the midpoint here, and between the two hopefully I will have enough support that it will lift it without dropping it. Alright, I got my strap tightened up. Make sure that that's in a position where it's not going to really fall off anything. Yeah, that's better. Pop it past that. There we go. Alright, and now I got my chain here on this cross support, which I don't know if that's a good idea or not, but I really want to support it around mid on the frame here, keep the front end from dropping down, but at the same time I don't want the chain to be sliding up here and bending up stuff, so We'll see if that's going to put too much strain on there. Most of your weight's right back here with these big housings and the transmission and everything. 90% of your weight's back here, so I think that's going to be okay. Let's give the loader a little bit of... Alright, take a look. See how that looks? I think if I take it slow and easy, that's going to be just fine. Get my jack out of there. Because that's somebody we'll walk away with. I was just crawling along real slow in first gear and at an idle. I don't want to get that thing swinging too violently. It might put too much strain on the trap and end up dropping the thing. The trickiest part's going to be crossing the road, so I'm going to actually back out on the road so I can see what's coming as far as cars long before I actually get out there. Well, now that I've cleared the road, I've turned around facing forward. I can go a little faster. If something falls off now, it'll just drop onto the ground, which is a lot softer than the road. And not only that, but the worst part is if it drops off on the road, now I gotta move the thing real quick before a car comes. Alright. Alrighty. Figure I'll park it here for now. Anyways, I'll give you a quick look at the other, at the Yelm Earthmaster in case you haven't seen that video. That's the Yelm Earthmaster. So what that's got on it is, it's got the right sheet metal on it that's been kind of chopped up. The they chopped it up here, missing a piece here. They chopped up the frame here. The reason why it's all chopped up is because that is a 4-cylinder Hercules engine that came out of an old military generator, genset. And they used that to repower this. Originally this was a 4-cylinder N62 Continental gas engine that would have been a 62 cubic inch displacement. I forgot what the drawbar horsepower rating was on that. It was pretty low, it was under 20. But you could do a single bottom plow with it because you had this tremendous gear reduction happening with these big bull gears in the back here. So anyways, it's got some original stuff still on it. It's got the radiator that I need. And then, you know, some other extra stuff. What's nice, it's got a PTO belt drive on it, which was an option, which you could get this tractor with no PTO on it, so there'd just be a plate on the top of the transmission here, or PTO housing would just sit on top and drive shaft out the back, which is what I've got on that original one that was used to drive a sickle bar mower that I own. Anyways, this one's got the belt, so if I wanted to, I could put this on that one, but I don't know. I don't know if I want to keep it all original, or I haven't decided yet on that. So, but this thing's pretty messed up. I got the motor running though. That was the Yelm Earthmaster series of videos. If you want to see that project, that basically is just me wanting to see, just screwing around, curious whether or not I could get the motor running, which turned into a whole project. Got the motor running, was able to verify that the transmission works and everything, so I know I've got a good transmission here. Hydraulics work. There's this blade on here, which is looks like it's maybe home shop fabricated or something. The verdict's still kind of out on this because it's got some components like this stuff right over here that looks very, very eerily like the OEM Earthmaster implement hookups. Here's the single bottom plow that came with that Earthmaster tractor that my father owned. This is what we used on the farm. So you can see that this is what I'm talking about right here. Check this out. I mean, that right there, that adjuster And this plate right here, the way it's on that, that's clearly identical to the other one over there, which means either they chopped up an Earthmaster implement to make that blade, or that blade is, at least partially, original Earthmaster. I mean, the blade clearly looks like it's been changed over the years, maybe. This is, looks like it was just an add-on to give it some strength, pushing rocks around or something. But then again, you know, that's welded on there pretty nicely. I don't know. I mean, this looks like home shop work right here, kind of a sloppy cut and a weld, but that doesn't right there. So, looks like it might have been some stock that was added on to. This whole weird blade in the middle here is kind of a weird deal. And, you know, again, I mean, it's really, if this was put together in a home shop, it's some really good work. But this adjuster right here, and this plate on the end here, and its cousin on the other side that match, they look like original Earthmaster components. Give you a look at the back. That tube comes down the back here, goes to this homemade looking bar here, which goes to the regular tool lift assembly that was an option on these Earthmasters. So this is all Earthmaster, and then this looks like it was added on later. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. At some point, I really don't have a use for this blade, so I might offer it to somebody, and if I can get decent money for it, then I'd probably sell it, trying to recoup some of my cost of moving this pig. I mean, same thing with the motor. It's a pretty rare Hercules 4-cylinder because it's a military one. But, you know, unless you get a use for it or you're just a motor enthusiast, I don't know I'm going to get too much for it. It was a runner. It hasn't run in several months, but I don't think it would take too much to get it running again. Well, let's get Smokey unhooked over here and get it back to the house and drain off that chemical concoction that's in there. Okay, I'm draining it again. Okay, now I'm flushing water through it. The engine's cooled off sufficiently that I can safely flush some 50-degree water through the system to flush out the remaining of the flushing chemical. Can I say flushing anymore in that sentence? Hey, guess what? Driving back here, the power steering started to get a little sluggish. Yep. Bet you that the power steering fluid's low, which is this little itty bitty reservoir right here. It's power steering. Well, that's lovely. Hey, are you supposed to have rust inside the reservoir? Oh, never mind. I'll check that some other time. Well, I'm going to hold off. I rehooked up that line. Although the temperature of the water that came out wasn't hot, I could easily touch it with my hand. The block is still hot enough around the manifold and that I don't want to push my luck. So with this line off, that water that I was flushing through there was basically just going through the radiator. But now that I've got the line hooked back up, if I force water through there, that's going to definitely go right into the block. So I'm going to cool it off some more before I flush it, just to avoid the potential for any thermal shock cracking anything. Okay, now I'm working by flashlight. Waited for it to cool off enough, topped it off with clean water, ran it just a little bit, dumped all that water off. I've let it cooled off again, and now I'm going to put in a 50-50 mixture of antifreeze and water.